Inclusive Recruitment Toolkit video series. Part 1. Are you ready to improve inclusion in your organisation? We asked representatives from lived experience organisations in Cornwall for their opinion on inclusive recruitment. In this 5-part interview series, we explore topics like attracting diverse candidates, how to make job interviews more inclusive, and much more. What is the first thing you think of that companies should do to be more inclusive?
Hello, I'm Joy T. Brown. I'm the Community and Partnerships Lead for Black Voices Cornwall and a member of the Senior Leadership Team. I also sit on the Board of Trustees for Cornwall's Chamber of Commerce. I think in the first instance, the best thing to do is to assess your organisation, have a look at the policies and practices that you already have in place. And the easiest way to do it is to look at your staff. If you have no diversity and it's a very kind of homogenous group of people, then you're probably not attracting or being attractive to a diverse set of talent, or your policies and practices mean that you're not able to retain them. So in the first instance, have a look at that, and then ask for some advice from community organisations around the diverse cohorts that you're looking to attract, and get their advice on how to become more attractive, supportive, and retain them.
Terence Spivey, Trustee at Hearing Loss Cornwall.
I think the first thing is that when a deaf person arrives for an interview and things like that the hearing people on reception have a very positive attitude towards deafness. So that's things like giving eye contact, and when they're talking to a deaf person, make sure they're looking at the deaf person. If there is an interpreter, don't look at the interpreter. It's only the deaf person that would look at the interpreter. The deaf person will be looking at the hearing person who's asking the question.
So my name's Matthew Kenworthy Gomez. My pronouns are he, him. I am the CEO of Cornwall Pride. So I think from a recruitment or a way for people to actually get excited to be able to join a business or organisation, they need to be able to see an organisation's values and for them not to be hidden away. So a lot of organisations have done some incredible work around inclusion, or even started their journey on what inclusion might mean for them. But even if you started that journey, being transparent and sharing that with the people that you're looking at advertising your roles or being part of the organisation, or even internally within the organisation, any time that you can share celebration of a step within inclusion is a really great opportunity for people to see that actually you're doing a lot for the values of your organisation, the values of your teams, and fundamentally supporting people. So for me, I think one of the most important things is shouting about what you do. I think it might be an English thing, it might be a Cornish thing, but we're kind of a little bit hidden away about some of the stuff that we do. Tell everyone, and tell everyone all of the time.
Hello, my name's Sandy Lawrence and I am the Director of Cornwall Accessible Activities Programme, also the founder, and I have a young man with Down syndrome who is 21 years old.
Hello, I'm Marie, I'm Vice Chair and also I'm a Trustee of Cornwall Accessible Activities Programme, and I help to run the Time to Shine project. And I have a daughter who's 19 with a learning disability. Well, the whole process needs to be redesigned, doesn't it? To break away from that unconscious bias.
Yes, but I think the first thing that we need to do is make sure that we are giving the right training to the right people at the right time, and that we maintain that training level, because you can't be inclusive unless your staff have had that training. Yeah. And for them to understand that it isn't just about ticking a box, it's about it is about doing and believing day in, day out, and it becomes just natural to do it.
What accessibility problems do you often face at work?
Being visually impaired, I find accessibility problems around using my laptop, using my phone, all of the stuff that people do take for granted. Having had an appointment with Eyesight Cornwall has taught me that it doesn't need to be a barrier, that there are things that can make my life better. And once I'd embraced my visual impairment, my life has been better because I've used the things that they've given me and the advice that they've given me.
More than accessibility, it's probably more about attractiveness or staying in work, being able to stay in work. Organisations that aren't culturally literate or have rules in place that make people feel uncomfortable, for example, rules around hair is an old one, and microaggressions on a daily basis, organisations that don't understand your cultural or religious needs, that will have a long-term effect on your mental health and therefore your physical health, and that's scientifically proven. So it's more a case of how can you stay safe when you're in work and stay there happily and safely.
So thinking about accessibility problems, so information might be given to me by a hearing person without an interpreter, and that's certainly an accessibility problem. In workplace meetings without an interpreter, that's another accessibility problem. It may be that you've got a deaf person who can lip read to a certain extent, but they can't lip read in a meeting because several people might be talking. So it's very important that interpreters are booked for meetings. Looking at the other side, for example, if a deaf person has a cochlear implant and they use, it looks like a Parker pen, but it's a listening device. The interviewer has to be aware that the listening device is passed to whichever person is speaking, because that will be connected to the cochlear implant.
So when you're looking at accessibility problems within the workplace, the obvious things would be, well, stairs or lifts or ramps or doors. Actually, accessibility problems from someone who's dyslexic, but actually not only those, it's all about those hidden accessibility challenges. I think when you're looking at accessibility, it's also the culture of the organisation, and when you have a certain cultural elements within an organisation, some people might not feel safe. So how you adapt, train, support, manage your existing teams through a change curve, through understanding how to create safer spaces for people, allows it to be more accessible to more people and creates a safe place for potentially marginalised communities, therefore supporting your organisation with diversity of thought. It's proven that diverse workforces have at least a 14% profit increase. So the more you can do when you have diversity of thought, people who think differently, potentially supporting disruptors coming into your organisation and or already in your organisation, be able to develop them, support them. But it's really important to ensure that cultural element within the organisation is accessible for everyone.
What negative social experiences do you think people from your community face at work?
So a lot of people might think that Pride is fantastic. You have a celebration, there's loads of awareness, the LGBTQ+ community. Do you know what? Everything's sorted. It's not. So the vast majority of our community within the workplace are still finding real challenges within the workplace. At least 40% of people are not out in the workplace with their team members, with their friends and family, maybe more so, but with their team members, it's really difficult for the LGBTQ+ community to be and feel their authentic selves. When you're not authentic, when you're not yourself in any position, it's going to cause real challenges within mental well-being, much more stress, likelihood to be off sick through those stress elements, through potentially not feeling comfortable, not feeling like they can, or having to pretend to be someone else to fit in. So I'll go back to the cultural elements and those support networks within organisations that enable people to feel themselves, to be comfortable, to be their authentic selves, and therefore excelling and being able to work for the organisation that they value and want to deliver for.
So negative experiences from hearing people can include a poor aptitude. They think they might know everything about deafness, but they don't give any eye contact. Hearing people talking direct to the interpreter, asking the interpreter questions, and that's not what should happen. They should ask the questions of the deaf person. Organising meetings without interpreters.
Yeah, it's breaking down those barriers, isn't it? There's those preconceived ideas about somebody, from my experience, with a learning disability, that perhaps they need more support than they actually do, and that they are valued and have a lot to offer our society. And that's not often heard, is it? And it's trying to break that barrier down.
Oh, there's a few. I think that in the first instance, there's a real lack of representation in decision-making boards, and that comes from real challenges to accessing career progression. We still see a lot of bias in play with that. And again, that's just a sort of matter of counting the representation on decision-making boards and that ability. Pay is a very difficult one. People who are ethnically diverse who wish to negotiate their salary are often seen as being too demanding, and will have much worse outcomes than their white male cohorts. As a rule, female cohorts don't do that well either with it. So that can be quite difficult and very frustrating because you can feel undervalued. Again, the microaggressions, constantly being called out for the way that you look is really, really difficult, and I always call it death by 1,000 cuts. You just get exhausted by the end of your day, your week and your year, and you won't retain staff that way, of course. I think that there's a sense of gaslighting is the best way I can put it. When people do point out that there seem to be some biases within an organisation, they're often shut down and told they have a chip on their shoulder. And again, that means that people feel frightened to come forward and be themselves. And those archaic rules around what you wear, what your hair looks like, which come from a white standard, are then applied blanket to the entire team, and that leaves you in a very difficult position to know what to do with your hair or not to be able to wear what you need to wear. And finally, I'd say anything around prayer and respecting ethnic moments of importance or religious sort of needs, just creating that space for people. A lot of people don't find that an accessible space to practice. So I think those are the main ones.
This video was produced by Discover Voices, part of Disability Cornwall and Isles of Scilly. To check out all of our content, simply search Discover Voices on YouTube.